I am a people pleaser, which means I want to keep everyone in my life happy all the time. And I never want to be on someone's bad side. This kind of people pleasing has led me to be silent when I should have spoken. It's led me to value other people's opinions of me more than I value the truth or how others are treated. Have you ever been around someone who's a bully? The kind of person who wants to control others or mistreat them? What do you do in those situations? I hate to say it, often I've kept my mouth shut.
Hi, friends. It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. Jinger Vuolo, Jinger Duggar, has announced a brand new book. This video isn't going to be super long, but I want to just give you some information about this brand new book, People Pleaser, and some really problematic details that have come out about the book, about how she's framing people pleasing, and how this book will absolutely be detrimental to individuals that actually need help, because Jinger Vuolo is taking a psychological issue that happens to individuals that are dealing generally with trauma and flipping it and turning it into a sin that is bad, evil, and something that needs to be overcome. And sadly, this is a result of her teachings at the church that her husband is a part of, Grace Community Church, that views mental illness and mental health conditions as satanic, demonic, and something wrong with you, when the result and the actual reality is that Jinger Duggar is a woman that has gone through considerable trauma. She is a woman that has not received psychological help or any therapy or doctor help for what she's going through, and has turned to religion to solve her problems. As much as she has grown and changed from the cult that she grew up in, she's finding herself trapped in a new cult, and again, using God as a backdrop to fix her problems. The criticism she has given to Bill Gothard of having solutions and one size fit alls, and I have the answers for you, she is rewriting in her new church, Grace Community Church. She's profiting off of. She's bought $1 million home in California, and she and Jeremy are now building their brand on a one size fits all approach to a psychological and mental health condition. So let's dive into what this book is, and I want to just share a few clips of what she said in the announcement for the book.
I didn't want to risk their wrath. I didn't want their anger turned on me because I'm a people pleaser. It's how and why. The cost of living like this has been times I've sacrificed the joys of true community and genuine friendship because I'm afraid to mess up or to let someone down or make them mad. Maybe you can relate. If you're a people pleaser, you know what it is to become so focused on yourself that you forget how to love others well. Friends, I've got good news for you. There is freedom from the bondage of people pleasing.
This video she posted over on her YouTube channel, and she and Jeremy have now started this podcast where basically the whole podcast is Jinger talking about her problems and her life, and really Jeremy exploiting Ginger's fame and using the Bible, and really in many ways being a puppet master for Jinger. When I watch the podcasts, I'm really concerned because Jinger still has a very flat affect and seems very disconnected, almost disassociated from the things that she says. And, when she was interviewed by Mia Bialik, who is a neuroscientist, she asked her about if she'd ever thought about the fact that she might have OCD, and if she's got religious OCD, which is a coping mechanism where you become hyperfixated on religion, and it's used as sort of a crutch to help you manage your anxiety. And I resonated a lot with Mia when she said that, because I feel like that's what she's done, Jinger. And I think that her people pleasing that she's talking about, I'm not a psychologist, but it's generally speaking, it sounds like a lot of anxiety. Now, I want to read to you what her book synopsis is, and then I want to share with you what people pleasing actually is. So it says, are you a people pleaser? Can you begin to measure how the approval of others has shaped your heart, mind, your faith, and relationships, your habits, and identity? In People Pleaser, New York Times bestselling author Jinger Vuolo shares her personal journey of constantly seeking approval from others and how she found her true identity. From childhood to early adulthood, Ginger followed the expectations of others, never taking the time to discover who she truly was. It wasn't until she asked herself the question, who am I, that she realized she was a people pleaser. This realization led to her on a journey of self discovery and ultimately to rely on God for her approval and sense of self worth. Through her faith and reliance on God, Ginger began to break free from the need for approval and discover true freedom. This book is a guide for anyone struggling with people pleasing tendencies and seeking to find their true identity and purpose in life. Discover the beauty of community and how we are made to enjoy others. Identify sin and how it can hinder your ability to be in community with one another. Diagnose yourself with ruthless honesty, but without judgment, and understand who you are in God's eyes. So that's the synopsis from the publisher of this book. And then the book publisher's synopsis also includes this from Ginger. At the conclusion of each chapter of this book, you'll find some questions to consider, a verse or prayer to think on, and some encouragement as you move through the journey. I love books that have this kind of wrap up at the end of the chapters, which is why I wanted to do this for you. It's an opportunity for you and me to chat through the pages about what really caught our attention, where we can have a deeper understanding of how we've been struggling and where we can see we're growing. So think back on what you've just read. It's basically just a study guide. And then she says, I want to be set free to love people well for the right reasons. I've seen what happens when you and I are honest about our challenges, our struggles, our fears, and our mistakes. The light gets in and the grace shows up. Freedom is the experience of truth. Grace is a big point of her dialogue because the Grace Community Church is all about the grace of God and the belief that it's God's grace, that it's a reformed theology that says that it's common grace that's given to all from God. So it's a doctrine of the Calvinist faith. It's called irresistible grace. It's a doctrine in Christian theology, particularly associated with Calvinism, which she's involved in now, which teaches that the saving grace of God is effectively applied to those who he is determined to save and in God's timing overcomes. So they're the chosen, the elect, the anointed. And the way that this constantly perpetuates in cycles is that she always talks about grace. And it's just how they decide that they've been chosen by God to go to heaven and saved. It's different than just believing in God and then you're saved. It's very different. There's the Reformed theology, and then there's the traditional that don't believe that you have to be a select few that are anointed and chosen by God to go to heaven. That's a very, very, very condensed version, but nonetheless, part of John MacArthur's church is that he does not believe in psychology. He does not believe in mental illness. He does not believe that psychologists can help people with mental illness. And instead, his solution for everyone is to go to the Bible and to believe in God's grace. And that's about it. And sadly, he teaches his followers that you are sinful if you have a mental illness. So anxiety is a sin. People pleasing is a sin. It's not. Having ADHD is a sin. Having depression is a sin. And the only cure is God. And so that appears to be what Ginger's going to be teaching people in this book. And old habits die hard. Cult hopping from one cult to a next is super common. It's hard to really get out of the mindset. It's hard to live in a world where you don't have something to lean on to like tell you how to live. And this is basically what she's doing now. She's telling other people she has found the answer. This is what she knows. And it's really just going to be regurgitating likely what she's been told at her church. Now, she called this bondage, meaning she was calling it a sin and that it's something she needs to overcome. And I want to just tell you from Psych Central, it's a psychological website, what are people pleasers? There's something that she said in there that isn't actually people pleasing. She said, are you so consumed in yourself that you don't even think about others? That's actually the opposite of people pleasing. Pleasers actually don't think about themselves. So it says, what is a people pleaser? People pleasers are individuals who often disregard their own needs to please others. You may get caught up in giving all of yourself to others. People pleasers may have challenges distinguishing their likes, dislikes, and hobbies from others. Knowing their true desires, wishes, and goals may be hard for them. They may also have difficulty saying no, and they say yes to things that they don't want to do. They will often go to great lengths to be liked, avoid disagreements, and mitigate that they will be abandoned. People pleasing behavior can often lead to resentment and relationship burnout, leaving the person experiencing it feeling drained and exhausted. And if you exhibit people pleasing behaviors, you may also be prone to experiencing other mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety. Some examples of people pleasing behavior are making attempts to avoid abandonment, conforming to harmful behaviors, disregarding your self interest for the sake of others, experiencing anxiety about perceived abandonment, attempting to maintain closeness by self sacrificing, telling others what they want to hear to avoid conflict, accepting invitations to do things that you may not want to, having challenges with advocating for your own needs, exhibiting a lack of personal boundaries, perceiving that you're likable only if you continue to meet others' needs, apologizing excessively to others, rarely expressing criticism, and rarely disagreeing with other ones. Some traits of someone that's a people pleaser are perfectionism, agreeableness, conflict avoidance, self sacrificing, having porous boundaries, not great boundaries, dependent, low self esteem, anxious, helpful, and friendly. So, according to Psych Central, there's a few things that can cause people pleasing, and one of them is a trauma response. So, people pleasing can often be a response to trauma or other life experiences. You may have heard fight, flight, or freeze, but some people exhibit fawning in response to complex trauma. Fawning is people pleasing to settle conflicts and maintain the approval of others in relationships. Research from 2023 suggests that fawning is a trauma response that occurs frequently in individuals who've experienced childhood sexual abuse. Appeasing their abuser may help calm down the situation to help the person establish a false sense of safety. So it's fawning. So fight, flight, freeze, or fawning, a response to trauma. And research says that it's seen a lot in individuals that are victims of childhood SA, which Ginger is. It also can be a part of emotional dependence. So they can be linked to emotional dependency. Emotional dependencies occur when a person has unmet psychological needs that they may need try to satisfy within close interpersonal relationships. So 2019 research indicates that those with emotional dependency may fear and avoid being alone, engage in people pleasing behaviors, seek exclusivity in romantic relationships. And the author suggests that people who are emotionally dependent long for another's presence. This longing may lead to an individual with emotional dependence to abandon their wishes and fulfill their partner's desires. I think it's pretty obvious to anyone that watches Ginger that she has, in my opinion, abandoned herself and she seeks approval, constant approval from her husband. And I think is doing a lot of these books because he doesn't have a job that can afford their lifestyle. He is a perpetual student and works as a free pastor at his school. And Ginger is required to do all the heavy lifting and income for the family, which is ironic because they believe in patriarchy at that church. So in many ways, Jeremy is exploiting Ginger's fame so that they can make money. And that's my opinion. So it's something that is linked often to depression and anxiety and low self esteem. And one thing that this website says is to locate a mental health professional for additional support. Learning to set healthy boundaries and identify and expressing your needs is part of healing from people pleasing tendencies. If she has trauma, she needs to heal from that trauma. And if she has unresolved trauma that from her childhood, from what happened when she was young and what Josh did to her, this is just sort of a band aid. And unfortunately, John MacArthur, like Bill Gothard, just offers these sort of like one solution for everyone, one size fits all. Ginger has not actually recovered from people pleasing. She told People magazine that she, through God, was able to overcome an eating disorder, which is not true. If she has an eating disorder and she hasn't sought help for it, it's still going to be a problem. She has to actually get down to the root cause of what's driving the behavior itself. And until she explores and gets through that trauma, all of this is just going to be a cycle of her constantly finding the answer until she actually gets help. And until she gets help, this is just going to be the cycle she's in. And she doesn't have anyone in her life that believes psychology and doctors can help her, because John MacArthur's church is they believe they have the truth for everything. And so she's just becoming an extension of that. She's just extending her people pleasing by writing a book about people pleasing. And my fear is that people that actually need help would go to a book like this instead of actually getting help. By no means do I think that it's a solution. And the way that she's framing it is that she has an answer. She has the golden ticket, and there's no golden ticket to recovering from trauma. God, do I not know that? You just have to do the work. And that's hard. That's way harder than writing a book and going through the motions and acting like you have the answer. So be careful with her new book. I do hope at some point Ginger can evaluate what's happening in her life and see that she's just repeating the cycle, and she's allowing Jeremy to dictate and control her. And she's not really helping people. She's putting more harmful content out into the world and making people feel bad. That's the part that makes me sad, is she should not feel bad that she's in a trauma response. Ginger should not feel and be told that what she's going through is a sin. What she's going through is trauma, and she's finding a coping mechanism. And she actually needs someone to help her recognize that what happened to her and the response that she has to it is not her fault. It's not a sin. It's not bondage. There's actually more freedom in realizing it's not me that did this. It's me responding and trying to protect myself. And it's okay to get help. And I hate when religion makes people feel like the mental illnesses and the trauma they have is their fault. It's toxic. So, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Bye, everyone.